In late spring of 2024, universities all around the United States were in a state of disarray. University students took to their campuses and conducted pro-Palestinian protests. Their goal? Have the university move money out of Israel in the wake of the Israel-Hamas war. Many have brought their conviction, some brought protective equipment, but unfortunately, none of them properly prepared themselves from this.
Dozens of Harvard students who had been protesting the war in Gaza were surprised by what they say is unfair punishment by the university.
And a handful of them, well, they won't be able to graduate this week, even after agreeing to clear the encampment in Harvard Yard. NBC 10's Austin Morgan joining us live from Cambridge to explain.
Throughout history, protests played a large part in changing society. But in the age of surveillance, the methods to stop protests and suppress dissent are now easier than ever, so much so that we made a video describing how protests are useless now. Link down in the description below. Although we think that protests have become ineffective, we understand that those who are foolish, brave, or both would do so anyways. So we've made this video to help protect you from protest surveillance. Before we go any further, we would like to stress how dangerous it is to be complacent. Surveillance tech and tactics improves year over year, so even if you do everything in this video, we can't guarantee its effectiveness unless you take action to improve on it. That being said, one of the best ways to keep yourself sharp is by improving your knowledge through today's sponsor, Audible. I'm sure you already know that Audible gives access to a vast library of audiobooks right at your fingertips. But what you might not know is that you can get Audible Plus for 30 days free. From there, you could try out Privacy is Power, a short audiobook detailing the dangers of invasions of privacy and how to take back control of your data. The link to the offer is down in the description below. With that being said, let's get back to business. Let's say you're a protester looking to bring about change through peaceful demonstration. You want to know how to distance yourself away from constant surveillance, how to minimize the data that they collect when you are protesting, and how to make life manageable when they decide to punish you. To answer these questions, we must look back to our last video. To give you a refresher, powerful entities like governments follow 3 steps to stop protests. First, identify as many protesters as possible through social media and surveillance technology. Second, monitor the protesters to study their behavior and identify more people who are associated with them. Third, they use all the info they gathered from the first 2 steps to crush the protesters. From an armed house raid to having your bank accounts frozen, the ways they can punish people like you is truly endless. For someone like you to tackle this challenge and stay as safe as possible while protesting, you must assume that you've already been identified and monitored. With this assumption, we can flip the ordering of the protest-crushing playbook and counter the steps in reverse order. Instead of being crushed by the powerful, you must prepare to resist their oppression. Instead of letting them monitor you, you need to scramble their ways to track you. Instead of getting identified, work to vanish from their sight. Now that we've explained the steps, we also need to provide a disclaimer. These steps are not here to turn you invisible, and the government can still bypass our attempts to protect ourselves as long as they are willing to spend lots of time and money to do so. So this won't work if you are planning to prank the president, but these steps should be enough to avoid getting backlash if you keep the protests peaceful. Okay, let's start with resisting retaliation. The goal is to cushion the impact of whatever entities like the government throws at you. Going back to what happened at Harvard.
Instead of supporting those students, Harvard chooses to not allow 13 of them to graduate.
The students who've been denied graduation should immediately look for other career paths and ask their friends to have a place to sleep if they are running into money problems. The best way to deal with retaliation is money, so you need to acquire and secure as much of it as possible. Ideally, you should work to gather as much money before you protest, because the damage of a loss of income, or in this case, getting cut off from a high-paying job by not being able to graduate, is devastating. Here are some suggestions to help keep yourself financially stable when protesting. First, work to pay off all your debts as quickly as possible, and don't take on any more debt. Debt can spiral out of control very fast, and it can be used as a leash to keep you in line. If you ever ask people why they slave away at a job they hate, they will almost always be because they need to pay off their mortgage, student loans, or car loan. Whatever you do, never underestimate the power that debt can have on you. Second, Save up as much as you can. In a perfect world, you should have a financial portfolio that would make Warren Buffett blush. But practically speaking, we recommend that you save up at least 3 months' worth of cash. The reason why we mention cash specifically is because governments are starting to freeze bank accounts as a way to punish people who protest. Being able to use cash to pay for things will prevent starvation and keep the lights running in your home. Third, build a network of friends and family you trust. In case it has all gone wrong and you lost everything, you can at least try asking the people you trust to help out while you get back on your feet. People will have varying levels of success with this. Some may have abusive parents, or others only met their friends through the internet. Despite your circumstances, we suggest that you start developing your social circle as soon as possible. Once you have all 3 completed, it would be very difficult to destabilize you. Events like a job loss are still painful and stressful, but it won't be enough to ruin your life. However, I'm sure you are not satisfied being constantly monitored. Let's go on to the second phase. Scramble. Scrambling is to make it difficult for others to keep tabs on you, so it's harder to determine what you'll do next and protect the people you care about. There are tons of ways to do this, like making sure to wear a mask, wear loose clothing during protests, and avoid getting arrested as best as you can. But even if you wore a perfect disguise, covered your face, and used a different accent when speaking, your phone and what it sends out is a dead giveaway to your identity. Because at the end of the day, we all know that our phones contain our most sensitive data, and the software inside usually spies on us. Map apps can track your location, messaging apps can look into your chat logs, and with how popular social media apps are, you can bet that there are entire teams dedicated to tracking every second of your activity to be sold to the highest bidder. Since your phone acts like a personal surveillance device, you should focus on securing it. First, don't let your personal phone be confiscated. We can use every possible method to secure your phone, but it won't matter if law enforcement took it and extracted data from it. To resolve this issue, you should get a dumb phone. So when it comes time to protest, you can leave your smartphone at home and use your dumb phone at the event. If you get arrested by the police and have it confiscated, they would likely get your location data during the protest, your basic identity, and your emergency contacts, which is almost nothing compared to the data stored in a typical smartphone. Second, is to be more thoughtful about what's in your phone and how long you are using it. Most of your data that is collected and eventually handed over to people like the government is through apps like Google Maps, Facebook, or Reddit. To address this, try to remove all of the apps that you don't need and use your phone less. This is a monumental task, so we recommend that you start slow. Set up a monthly ritual where you remove an unneeded app and lower your screen on time by 10 minutes. Repeat this until you can't remove any more apps and reduce your screen on time any further. Third is to consider what phone you use. When you are planning to get a new phone, take privacy into consideration. For someone who is new to the privacy-minded lifestyle, Apple's iPhones are a good starting point because it's not as easy to cause your phone to be insecure. But for someone who is used to living a private life and wants to take it to the next level, we recommend Android loaded with custom software like Graphene OS, which greatly increases the amount of control you have over your data. Speaking of taking things to the next level, let's move beyond securing your phone. Let's start thinking about how to vanish from mass surveillance. In our world driven by data, vanishing from the eyes of institutions is a holy grail for privacy-minded individuals. It's something that even the most secretive people struggle to achieve. Please don't be discouraged if you can't vanish within a week. Instead, do your best to resist and scramble, and see vanishing as a journey to embark on, rather than a finish line that you need to sprint to. Now, we're sure you might be wondering, what does it mean to vanish? Vanishing is to make it so that people like the government need to find information about you to properly know who you are, which forces them to choose between spending more resources to retaliate against you or going after someone who is less prepared. First, you have to limit the amount of information you send out. Even if someone has a document with all your information, from your credit card number to your sleep schedule, you could make that information much less useful if it isn't up to date. What you should try to do is to think of all the services that you use, things like websites, delivery services, and software, and try not to tie your information to it. If you want to have a Netflix subscription, you could try making an account using a burner email account and a VPN to help mask your identity so you can safely watch your favorite shows. Second, is to pay for companies to help remove your data from data brokers. Data brokers are essentially companies that gather and sell information to others, so if the government wants to know more about you, they can pay the broker to do so. Using this method along with the first step is very effective, so not only is the data outdated, powerful entities now have fewer and fewer places to get that data as well. We highly recommend that you do your own research on those data removal companies, because you need to give your most up-to-date information to them to enable them to work on your behalf. And the last thing you want to do is to give this to untrustworthy people. Third is something that not many privacy-oriented YouTube channels are talking about. It's to help work to improve everyone else's privacy as well. Some people dedicate their lives to hide themselves and no one else. But as counterintuitive as this may seem, massive boosts in privacy require people to be visible to do so. Think of Europe's GDPR law and how the law forced tech giants to completely change how they do business and handle data in Europe. Not only that, it sparked privacy regulation to spread to several other countries like Turkey, Japan, and South Korea as well. If you are not interested in politics, you could try starting a business that helps to bring privacy to everyone. Thankfully, people are starting to see privacy as a desirable feature, so not only can you help others, you could also make a lot of money from it as well. Whenever you are feeling ambitious, try to think about what you could do to help others achieve a greater level of privacy. You may be surprised at what you can accomplish. In conclusion, we've gone over how you can stay safe while standing up for what you believe in. Resist those who try to crush you by focusing on your finances. Scramble their attempts to monitor you by securing your phone. Vanish to make it difficult to identify you by limiting and removing the information you send out, and help others have the same private lifestyle as you do. You may have noticed that most of the steps require money to achieve, which isn't feasible for the poor and is difficult for those who are living paycheck to paycheck. Unfortunately, this is more of a feature of society than a flaw. Having high barriers of entry helps discourage movements that threaten the social order, and people who ignore these barriers won't have the means to save themselves when people in power start to crack down on dissent. This is why understanding how to earn money and gain power is more important than ever. Thankfully, you don't need to rely on a 9-to-5, and you can make it big by leveraging the internet. We had mentioned before that you should never become complacent, and Audible is a great way to keep growing. You can also use Audible to help get the knowledge you need to earn your first dollar and make a stable income for yourself. With that, you aren't at the mercy of anyone when you speak up and protest what you believe in. Check out the link in the description to get a 30-day free trial of Audible. And remember, your privacy matters.